Hello there. I want to talk a little bit about a software organ that I've been working on for a while. Here's the first incarnation of the organ. This is a 10 or more years old netbook, and this is an old MIDI keyboard controller, and up here is something I found in a second-hand shop recently for just a few hundred yen or a few quid in English money. And down here you can see there are sliders, and there's 9, which is perfect because there are 9 sliders on a Hammond organ. So with this version of the organ, you can see when I move these, the sliders go up and down. That's great. And what this is doing is every note I play, it's generating 9 harmonics, 9 oscillators for each note, and adding them together. If I just demonstrate with this, so there's the first one. You probably can't even hear that, it's so low. These last 3 are things like vibrato and things. Tremolo. Anyway, it's fine, but because each note is generating 9 oscillators, you don't have to play too many notes. For example, 10, and then you're suddenly generating 90 oscillators, all in separate instruments, and adding them on top of each other. And suddenly polyphony becomes an issue. You can hear that breaking up, which is not quite playable enough. You need at least 10 notes because you've got 10 fingers. So I began to wonder if I was going about this the wrong way. So I tried another method of having all of the oscillators just running simultaneously, so they're not switching off and on, and the switches actually kind of open and close each oscillator relative to each other, which is really exactly how a Hammond organ works. There are 91 tone wheels spinning, and each tone wheel is mixed according to the drawbars, is mixed in to build up the sound, but the tone wheels are always going. The Hammond's is always spinning, and actually it's not quite in equal tuning, but that's fine. It sounds wonderful. So I tried that with this one, and you can see I've worked on the oscillator a little bit. Sounds rather nice. Things like fold over, which I bet you can't even really hear. If I turn the high harmonics on, is all working. It's actually a very faithful clone of a real Hammond organ. It's not quite in the Hammond organ tuning, but it works in exactly the same way. There are 91 oscillators. Actually, there are 79 oscillators because I realised that the bottom 12 are only used for the bass pedals. So I thought, I'll get rid of them. And suddenly I've got lots of polyphony. It breaks up a little bit if you kind of put your elbows on the keys. But it works quite well, and I even followed a bit of an old Sound on Sound article on synthesizing Hammonds, and made a fairly interesting Leslie speaker. If I just turn that on for you, here we go. Speed it up. Jimmy Smith mode. This controller keyboard's a bit noisy. That's where all the key clicking's coming from. And one more function of this organ is I managed to get the Hammond percussion working as well. So let's just turn that on. Here we go. So yeah, nice. But no sooner had I finished this than I thought, what I really want is a Hammond organ that can play microtonally. But then suddenly this 91 or 79 oscillator model doesn't really work properly because it's generating the harmonics for each note. And if you have a non-equal scale, then the notes start to sound a bit odd when you have strange non-harmonic harmonics mixed into it. So I needed again an organ that could generate pure harmonics. And then I think, oh god, that means I need an infinite number of tone wheels and I'm going to have no polyphony again, and it's blah blah blah. But then I thought, if the harmonics, if the partials for each note, that the drawbars open and close, as you can see on here, if they're harmonically related, then I can have them all as one table. They can all fit into one sound file, and then when you change the drawbar, perhaps you could regenerate the sound file each time. And then each note would only have to generate one tone, which is actually a complex tone built up of these harmonics. Anyway, I tried that. I just need to just load it up. There we go. And there we go. It looks similar. There's some extra stuff going on here that I'll talk about in a minute. So this is now, every time you change a drawbar, it regenerates the wavetable that is used to create each note. And it works very, very smoothly. And in fact, you can get it's very, very, very polyphonic. You can hold down a lot of notes before it starts to break up. So it's a good solution, really. It's not as faithful to the original Hammond organ. So the harmonics aren't in tune or out of tune in the same way that a Hammond's are. But what you can do with this organ is you can put it into different tunings. So for example, here's my equal tempered tuning. Sounds pretty good. I can also put it into a just intonation tuning. And you might not be able to hear the difference particularly, but there is a difference. And you can have all these interesting intervals, like this is the harmonic 11th, which you don't really get in equal temperament. So this would be a tritone in equal temperament, which is there, but the harmonically tuned 11th harmonic is here, very slightly sharp of the 4th. And what's going on down here is that these blue things that I'm sure you probably can't even see are telling me the harmonic ratios of the scale. Can you see that there's one highlighted there? If I move up like this, there's a 1 octave keyboard here too. And that takes this set of frequency ratios and maps it to the next root note. So for example, this is the unison 1/1, which is very good, but if I want to play the same interval on a D, it sounds horrible. But I can actually go up to D with this keyboard, which will tune all of the ratios to D. Play C again. Oh no, that sounds horrible now. Let's put it back to C again. It also means you can explore things like different seventh chords. So that's a harmonic seventh chord. It's based on the seventh harmonic, which is kind of a coincidence that it's also called a seventh. But you can also have a seventh chord based upon the ninth harmonic. So this is a ratio of 16/9 if any just intonation aficionados are watching. Or if I'm in the key of G and I play the same C chord, you get a 9/5 seventh harmonic. Seventh dominant. A 9/5 dominant seventh chord. Oh, it's printed out some warnings there. That's actually nothing to do with this organ. I don't know why it's printing out those warnings. I spent a few days, a couple of months ago, installing Gen 2 on this system because I wanted something super basic. This doesn't even have a graphic interface. Everything here is based on ASCII characters. But for some reason it tells me that there's no such file or directory for the news. I don't really want any news, but I haven't worked out how to turn it off yet. So let's just start that off again. There we go. I will work that out for a future occasion. Anyway, thank you for watching and cheerio.